The wind crawled across the desert like a warning, twisting dust into thin spirals that seemed to whisper the same message. No one could hit the target today. Not the seasoned Marines. Not the decorated snipers. Not the men who had trained their entire careers for this moment. Then a quiet woman stepped forward, and every conversation stopped, as if the earth itself held its breath. What city are you watching from today? If this story resonated with you, hit subscribe for more real stories about extraordinary people. Her name was Sergeant Mara Hale, though most on the range simply called her the new transfer. She said little, kept her gear tight, and carried herself with the calm of someone who had already walked through storms. The Marine Corps Scout sniper candidates eyed her from a distance, whispering guesses about why she had been sent here and why she always observed rather than spoke. The training range stretched across dry land that shimmered under the brutal sun. Targets were scattered far into the distance, the last one barely visible like a dot pressed into the horizon. It was an extreme long shot, placed there to humble even the best shooters. The instructors had told everyone that today was about precision, patience, and discipline. What they did not say was that it would also expose pride. Mara watched without expression as shooter after shooter failed to reach the final target. Corporal Jensen, broad-shouldered and loud, dropped beside his rifle with a sigh that carried frustration. He had missed a long shot by a margin that made the other snipers shake their heads. He looked back at Mara with a grin that wasn't friendly. Your turn if you dare. The wind hates us today. Another Marine added his own jab. Maybe she wants to start with something easier, like a practice target. A few laughed. Mara did not respond. She simply stepped closer to the firing line, studying the flags, the dust, the distant shimmer. She had grown used to the jokes, the dismissive glances, the quick judgments about her quiet nature. None of it mattered. She was here to train. Nothing more. Jensen leaned on his rifle. If you miss, no hard feelings. This shot breaks everyone. Mara checked the chamber of the rifle she had been issued. It was worn but well maintained, the kind of weapon that held stories of every Marine who had carried it before her. She sank into position with deliberate stillness, her chin settling against the stock as naturally as a heartbeat. The others watched with crossed arms, expecting another miss. The wind was unpredictable, dipping and rising in sharp pulses. Some of the junior snipers smirked as she adjusted her hold. They assumed she was overthinking the shot. A lieutenant stepped behind her and called out the range data. Mara listened, but also made her own calculations. She had learned long ago that the numbers on a sheet were only half the truth. The rest lived in the air, in the subtle pull of the world around the shooter. Jensen muttered to the Marine beside him. She looks calm for someone about to hit nothing. Mara inhaled slowly. Her heartbeat slowed. Her shoulders softened. She felt the wind, not as a problem, but as a partner she had worked with for years. She remembered a different training ground, one she never talked about, where she had learned to make impossible shots in silence. She focused on the distant speck of a target that wavered under the heat. The shot demanded perfection. One misjudgment would send the round sailing far from its mark. The others waited for her to fail. Some waited for her to surprise them. Only Mara knew the truth. Her finger tightened on the trigger. The recoil nudged her shoulder. A faint ripple stirred the dust. Silence followed for a brief moment until a Marine at the far end shouted that the target had been struck dead center. The sniper line fell into stunned stillness. Jensen's grin vanished. The lieutenant leaned forward as if the distance would somehow change what had happened. Mara lowered the rifle and rose to her feet with the same quiet presence she had carried all morning. One of the instructors approached her with a slow nod. That was not luck. Who trained you? Mara answered with a steady voice. I served 2 years with a joint operations unit before this assignment. The snipers exchanged looks. Joint operations meant elite work. She had kept that detail to herself. Not to impress anyone, but because she preferred to be judged by her actions rather than her rank or resume. Another instructor. Check the spotter's report. Direct hit. Perfect correction for wind. Only a handful of shooters in this program could make that call. Jensen tried to brush it off. One good shot does not mean anything. The instructor turned to him. She made the shot none of you could make today. Respect is not optional. Mara remained still, not triumphant, not proud, only grounded in the truth of what she had done. Word spread across the training grounds by afternoon. Some Marines approached her with genuine curiosity, asking for tips and guidance. Others kept their distance, processing the shift in their assumptions. Jensen avoided her for the rest of the day, though he eventually approached her with a firm nod that carried more sincerity than any apology. He could bring himself to say Mara used the moment to remind herself of something she already knew. Strength did not always announce itself. Talent did not need to shout. Some of the greatest victories came from people who chose silence over ego and discipline over pride. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the training range in golden light, Mara packed her gear with quiet grace. She knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges. She also knew she would meet them the same way she always had, with calm focus and unwavering resolve. Her story lingered among the Marines long after she left the range. It reminded them that true skill does not need an audience, and that respect belongs to those who earn it through action rather than noise. What did this story make you feel? Where are you watching from? Subscribe to Soul Relief Stories for more real stories that heal the heart.